Good evening. Welcome to Earth School Journey, where life is the curriculum and experience is the teacher. We're so glad to have you all back. I am Umi Steph, and I am your peer guide and co-host, and my lovely co-host and your other peer guide, Uni. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm here.
Hanging in
I
there amidst all of this Aries energy that's like pulsing through the universe at the moment.
listen. I'm here. How you feeling today?
I'm good. I mean, I'm energetic and I'm feeling good. Dealing with a lot, but life is life and it's teaching. It's experiencing very much. It's feeling real earth schooly. I have to say. I don't know about you, but it's feeling real earth schooly to me lately.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
definitely is.
So, our topic this month, classmates, is your spiritual identity. And interestingly enough, we initially had the topic for this month be called spiritual identity crisis. Okay. And it's been feeling a little crisisy lately. I don't know. Like there's a I don't want to say crisis. It's more like there's definitely an urgency and a like to figuring out some of these identity issues. It's like it's wanting to be known really like a lot right now. And I don't know if it's just this Aries energy because Aries is so identity focused, but I'm feeling it. I don't know. How about you, Uni? Are you feeling that? Yeah.
I am. I
Yeah.
am.
So did you wanna say something? 'Cause I okay.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna elaborate briefly and say I am feeling that. I have a
Mhm.
deep desire to know who I am and to be my true self and immediately.
Yeah.
Expeditiously.
Right
Like,
now, like, I wanna
yeah.
know, and I wanna express that fully and, like, to the utmost. I don't know, I just feel that right now, and it just came out of kinda nowhere. Like, yes, this was the topic, and we planned this topic, what, in, like, December. We weren't even thinking about what was going on in the universe, in the cosmos when we did it, other than to say, oh, it would be Aries season. Other than that, we weren't thinking that, oh, there's going to be a stellium or any of these things was going to be happening. That wasn't at the top of our mind, but it's really on point as it usually is. Every time we pick a topic, it just continuously shows up. But this one is like screaming to get attention, you know? Yeah. So just to recap, what is spiritual identity? Um, and so at its core, right, spiritual identity is this awareness of your true self, your true nature. And it's not just like the physical stuff. It's not your mind, your body, it's not your job, it's not your story, it's none of that. It's really being rooted and knowing that inner unchanging eternal connection to the divine. That's what it really is. When we talk about it, you know we're talking about knowing your connection to spirit, to divine essence that we all have. And so the opening question we kind of have for you is, how do you experience the difference between your temporary self, your human self here on earth, and your higher self, that part of you that's connected to the divine? And so we're going to get into that question quite a bit more today, as we go through our topics. And we're going to kind of drill down from like this big concept of one with God into like what that means in the human world, right? uh so if you're ready, classmates, uni, let's get started. So let's start at that top level of like one with God, right? What does that mean in an identity perspective? Uni, I'm gonna let you have a crack at it first.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. No, I'm joking. This is, it's oh man, it's such a interesting thing to explore. When I think about oneness with God, I think about little me almost. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Just happy, and even though I've experienced great tragedy at a very young age, I feel like I still had a sense of that oneness with God, like just
Mm.
kind of like this. I can do anything, I can be anything, I can, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that oneness with God, that divine union is a creative force.
Mm.
It is a force of just deep knowing that you are here to do something great. And I've always felt that way. You know what I mean? Like from a very young age, like I can do great things. Like I had these high hopes and expectations for everyone and everything in my life, and I still do. But there's this separation that has happened. You know what I mean? I feel like I almost feel like I can speak more from the separation than I can the
Mm.
oneness right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like the hesitation, the lack of confidence, the not really trusting in my intuition, the constant wanting to like censor, and am I doing the right thing, am I saying the right thing, do people accept me for who I am. Like I almost feel like I can speak from this separation better than I can the oneness at this
Mhm.
point in my life. I feel like the oneness isn't necessarily all knowing. Like I'm not saying that, even with that divine union oneness with God in this human body, I'm not all knowing, but I'm connected to the all knowing, and that all
Right.
knowing can guide me and through my intuition, through nudges in inner direction. It can show me the way. But there's this conditioning that I've had over the last XX years of my life that have made me just kind of not feel that. You know what I mean? And I have a deep desire right now more than anything to get back to that feeling with
Mhm.
God. That oneness,
Yeah.
that that place where I'm expressing my true nature of who God put me here to be, who I put myself here to be, who the most high put me here to be, who the universe excuse me, put me here to be.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I almost feel like it's like this thing that I know it's there, like I know it's deep within me. But I don't even know that I've come into contact with some people who are highly spiritual and have done some great things. But I don't even know if I can say like I've seen it in real time for me to be able to like really explain. Like I feel like it's something you can only feel and live, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard
Yeah.
to explain, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear you. And it's interesting to me that you say, you've kind of known or felt that feeling since you were young, that there was this oneness, and that like now you feel less connected maybe to that oneness, or at least less aware. I don't want to say less connected, but less aware of that oneness. And for me, it was the complete opposite. I grew up feeling completely separated and unloved or cared for by God. Like that was how I grew up. Like I was just not a good, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, from small, before I could even be old enough to have, you know, the awareness, the adult, you know, like the I was still in that innocence of childhood, but always felt wrong, you know. And so I never really was aware of any kind of oneness with God. As I got older, I got the child of God thing, right? But I never really got, particularly coming through traditional religions. You know, I grew up Muslim. I did, you know, practice Buddhism for a little while, but then I quickly moved into Christianity. So, you know, Islam, Christianity, they don't believe in that necessarily, that oneness, even though Jesus talks about it all throughout the Bible. At least the New Testament, right? Um, to say you're one with God in either one of those religions is kind of blasphemous. So it's not something that we said. And so I didn't really get that until I really started to embrace this spiritual like journey, this, till I had this awakening. And I really feel like the awakening is knowing that you're one with God. That's kind of the biggest part of it, is like that awareness that we are all connected in some way. You may not be associated with God, right? But knowing our unity, and that there is this great force, this great power that is connecting all of us in some kind of way. And it wasn't until I really had that awakening that I started to get this sense of being connected to something bigger and something higher. And I do feel that now, but I haven't fully embodied it, right? Because I'm still caught up in this humanness. I I know that, like, you know, we talk about stillness and connecting and all of that, and I can connect and I can feel these messages coming through and all of these things. But I feel like there's still this feeling of it being me here and God there. Even though I know God is everywhere. God is, you know, God, universe, whatever you want to term the higher being, right? This higher power, this uh like universal mind. It it's everywhere. There is no place. My my spiritual practitioner Daphne always says there is no spot that God is not.
Love that.
And it's cute, but it always rings in my head when I'm really feeling disconnected from the divine. There is no spot that God is not. So right where I am, God is, you know. Um and it's, I guess it's just such a big concept that it's hard for a lot of us to feel that, particularly when there's so much evil in that, you know, evil that we see in the world, right? To say that God is everywhere and that we are all one with God, it's hard to believe that certain presidents and certain, you know, like warmongers and things like that are one with God. Like, to think that, it's very hard when you also believe that, you know, God is good.
All the
God is
time.
just all the time, all the time, you know, to believe that, and also believe in this unity, is, it's hard when our perception in this world is that there is good and there is bad. And I don't know, I it's an interesting concept. I'm like so excited that we're talking about it this month, because there are things that I feel like I've thought about, but I haven't really put words to, or I haven't voiced it aloud. I haven't really, you know, it's how do you really understand and comprehend the bigness of who we are, right? Like, if we just put aside the negative people, the negatively appearing people, right? I don't want to say that everybody is bad, because if you're one with God, then there's good in there somewhere. It's just not expressing. Right? It's not expressing. But if we came forth from God, if we came forth from the divine, we came forth from this one source, you know, I think I'm going to use source because I feel like that's a less controversial word. But we came forth from the source and we have access to like all of that information. We have access to all of that love. We have access to all of that supply. It's like, how do we go about really knowing that and feeling that and just comprehending what that means? Because, you know, as the question said, is like, how do you experience that difference between your human self and your higher self, your self that's connected to source, to God? I don't know. It's like such a it's mind-boggling to think. It it's easy to think about it in terms, I feel like, for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but of the earth, right? If I think about Mother Earth and how, you know, my mother, when I was conceived, right, had to eat food that came from the earth. And literally the atoms and the molecules that was in that food were used to build the body that I have, this human vessel, right? I can think about it in that sense of being one, right? I'm one with the earth because literally I'm made of that stuff. But to think about it in that higher sense, well, okay, the earth is made of like stardust, right? It was a rock essentially that spun off and, you know, now is around our sun and all of that. Okay, so now we've taken it to that level. Like, we're one with the solar system and the universe. And but to what did the universe spin off of? Where did that come from? Right? It has to be, I mean, then we talk about the Big Bang and what that means and all of that. It's such a big concept. And I don't really, I don't know, when you try to intellectualize it, it's just not possible.
Right? It's yeah.
It's
Yeah.
got to be a feeling. Like, you have to feel into it. I can feel into it. I definitely can, but to explain it, nah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I was just, as you were talking, I was just thinking about my experience in life and how, because you're like, oh, you didn't necessarily feel that at a young age. And I felt like I did, you know what I mean? Even though I grew up in church, I don't know, it's just something, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I don't know, there's just something that I always felt connected to other people. I always felt connected to the world around me, but I feel like the world around me, or the people, places, and things that I was surrounded by, are what made me feel the disconnection to myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so when I think about my higher self versus my temporary self, my higher self is like, hey, everyone is like a friend. You know what I mean?
Right.
I love the sun. I love the moon. I love the stars. I love, to eat healthy food. I love to, drink my coconut water, have my tea, and you know what I mean? So on and so forth. I love to see, deer and cows, and you know what I mean? To sit by the
Right.
I love everything that life has to offer. But my temporary self has experienced like alienation and ridicule and rejection and
Mhm.
all of those things. And um what it did was, more than it made me feel separate from other people or from the world, it made me feel separate from myself,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm at that point in my life where it's like, no, like I want to be back connected to myself, and I am, and I'm getting there more and more. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm getting there more and more, because I can feel like the disconnection when it happens. You know
Right.
what I mean? Whereas before, it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, this is just how it is. You know, um, I just have to accept, what life gives me, basically, or what these people around me have given me. But my true self, my real self, is like, no, I can do all things. I'm so abundant. You know what I mean? I want to
Mhm.
have great experiences with great people. When I meet people, like, I don't want us to be rude to each other. I don't want us to disrespect each other. I want us to have good kindness and love. And if I say something, you can tell me if I make you feel some type of way. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I want to
Right.
have real honest experiences. That's my true self, you know.
Mhm.
But my temporary self is like, no, if you be honest with them, they're going to feel some type of way, or, just see what they say, or if they don't accept it, it's okay. And, just deal with it. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just like a lot that I feel. And this is just from a relationship, you know what I mean, aspect. There's so many other aspects of it when it comes to like your temporary self and your true self, I think. Um, but yeah, I feel like my temporary self doesn't feel like myself. It doesn't feel, I don't feel connected to myself. I feel like I'm just
Mhm.
going through the motions. I'm just doing things, just because this is what I've been told I should do. But the
Right.
real me wants to open up. And I think I talked about this a little bit before. And just working in certain environments where I was working around people that I really couldn't, like, I mean, they were all right, but I couldn't really be real with them. You know what I mean? Because if I
Mhm.
was real with them, they would tell me I wasn't being real with them. But I'm like, I'm
Right.
being real with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm being real with you.
Mhm.
But when I get around people who accept my real, like, listen, I'm being real with you, and they accept it. Like, they don't question it, they don't try to downplay it, they don't try to push it to the side. I want to open up and be more of myself. I want to be more
Mhm.
real. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is like who and what we put ourselves around too, having that discernment.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And so kind of what you have been talking about is really um it's this the next like level, right? Is if we are spirit, right? And then we come into these human bodies, right? We are these spiritual beings having this human experience. And that's really where we came up with this idea of Earth School Journey, right? Is that, we were in, I always say heaven, but it's really a spirit realm that I'm talking about. It's not really heaven per se, in the sense that people are like, oh, this is where you go after you die because you are rewarded for good. But I say heaven in that I mean the heavens, like the spirit realm, right? We're in the spirit realm, we're up there, we're like, okay, we can't have cool experiences here. So we gotta go down to earth and be born and forget all of this and then play the game, right? Or you can call it a game, you can call it school, however you want to refer to it. We like Earth School Journey because we like Mother Earth, and
And we're like nerdy, kind of
and
like
we're
we're like
kind of nerdy. We're a
we're
little
into
bit.
school.
We're into school a little bit. This is the metaphor that works for us. Okay,
Yeah.
I can be a little geeky and say game too. Either way,
Right.
a little bit. It's all
That's
about
true. Gamers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Very true.
It's
Yeah.
I mean it's all a metaphor. We use it loosely, right? But we
Mm.
we we're up there, out there, in there. I don't know where you want to say, but we were in this spirit realm saying, okay, we want to go down and we want to do these things. But in order to do that, you got to be born, right? And you're born and then you forget, like you go through this forgetting process of ever having been one, right? You have to forget because can you imagine trying to navigate in this world of limitation, knowing that you really don't have any limitation? Like you wouldn't actually ever get to experience anything because nothing bad would ever happen. Nothing, there would be no feeling of want. There would be no feeling of, which, sounds like a dream, right? And it kind of is because we've already all gone through it. We've already done it. We've already forgotten and we're trying to get back to that place of knowing. But if you really want to, you know, go through Earth School, and you really want to play the game of life, You have to be in it 100%, and you can't be in it 100% knowing from the get-go that you have access to unlimited source, unlimited power, unlimited, information. And that's just kind of how our temporary self is born. We are born from our mother, we are infants, we're unable to take care of ourselves. And I mean, we all have the experience of only being able to remember very poignant things from childhood beyond particularly the age of 7. I mean, really, I want to say before the age of 10, you don't really remember a whole lot, but you just forget. And but you remember negative experiences with extreme clarity, and that's the conditioning. Like, it starts with that, and then those experiences influence your like puberty years where things really get messy, and that temporary self is really just born into now adulthood, and you're out there trying to do adult things and have adult experiences, and you can't even remember, I see it with my own kids. Like, I see, you know what they were like when they were really small, and how free, and how, you remember, kids don't think they can be hurt. They don't none of that, right? They're just free. Yeah, they have no concept of injury or anything. They know, they just expect that they're always going to be okay, and someone's always going to run and take care of them. And I guess that's how we are when we're not in these bodies. And then they grow up and they are very reserved, or they're scared, or they're fearful, like, or they're angry because they're all teenagers, but and we call them teenagers, but I really, teenage years, I'm learning, last until you're like 25. Like, there's some anger that happens between like 13 and 25 that I haven't seen resolved yet. But that's a whole other story. But then, you start to, like, there's got to be more to it than this, right? And I feel like that's when you start to kind of come back to that oneness again. And so it's like relearning, like, how do I live in this human body and with these limitations in this human world of physical, like, things? Energy is limited, right? On earth. It's like, it's expended very easily, and you have to regroup, and you have to recoup. And it's often expended in unequally, right? I mean, we see that in so many ways, parents and kids. We see that with like employers and employees, with like upper class, lower class. There's this uneven exchange of energy. And then how do we navigate that, knowing now, right, that we have access to this unending amount of energy, love, guidance, wisdom, all of that. And I don't know about you, and I'm gonna let you talk in just a second. Um, but for me, it's been kind of hit or miss. Like, sometimes I'm like, I got this. Like, I know God's got me on this. There are times when it just feels so right. And I have no doubt, like, God has got this. It's gonna happen. Like, I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I just I feel it. Like, I feel all of that power. And then there are times that I'm just like, is this ever gonna change? Is it ever gonna change? Why do I have to struggle so hard? So that's how I'm experiencing the difference between my temporary self and my higher self right now. What do you have to say, Uni? How's it? What's your experience?
You know, right now, I'm really in this really introspective phase. Like I said, I feel like I'm very much so just thinking about how uncomfortable my life has been, and how I, from a very young age, and being kind of like forced to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And then, like you said, like as I got older and I would get in situations and I would settle, and I'm like, okay, if wherever I go, I'm going to be uncomfortable, I might as well just plant roots here and deal with it. You know what I mean? I might as well
Mhm.
just deal with this, and I'm just at the point in my life where, yeah, like I think we talked about this a couple months ago where we're like, yeah, a lot of people, even online, I've seen they talk about when you hit 40, you're like, F it. 40 is like synonymous for F it. The F in 40 might as well F it all. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you just get to that point where you're just tired of performing, you're tired of conforming, you're tired of pleasing. People are never pleased no matter what you do. You know what I mean? You're tired of hoping, praying, and wishing that, certain people will grow up,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you're just like, F all that. First of all, F all of that. Okay.
All
Like
of
for
it.
all of it, you know? And then you're like, okay, now what? And you're sitting and you're trying to figure it out. Some people lose their shit. Like, you know, I'm grateful that I haven't lost my mind. I have a even though I've been called crazy quite a bit, I've also been told on the flip side by some of the same people that I'm the most sane one that they know. You know what I mean? So it was like you were trying to play me all along, but that's another story for another day. Okay. Back. Okay, let me just regroup here because, right, reel it back in because I could listen. It's a couple
Uh-huh.
tables I should have flipped over. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like for,
Yep.
but I've learned that that didn't really get me anywhere, and now I'm just in this space where I want to practice discernment. I want to make sure that I'm pouring into spaces that can meet my level of depth. Like I don't want to be in any more superficial connections or attachments or what I mean, relationships
Mhm.
of any sort. You know what I mean? And especially again, the relationship with myself, I don't want
Yeah.
it to be superficial. I don't want to live in the conditioning that I had growing up where um I don't want to live in that conditioning anymore where where I'm just dealing with stuff that are just not right for me in the
Mhm.
long term. In the long term, they make me feel drained. In the long term, they make me feel unimportant. In the long term, they make me feel like I wasted my time. In the long term, they make me feel like I did not. Let me tell you something. There's so many, and I don't never negate what anyone has done, but like the good that people have done in my
Mhm.
life or that I've done in theirs, and vice versa. But just to be honest, like if I'm a sunflower, I don't belong in a shady spot. Okay? I
Right.
belong in the sun, okay? And so that's the part that I'm, really learning is just making sure that I'm putting myself in environments that are going to give me the nutrients and give me the sunlight and the water and the fertilizer and everything that I need so that I can be my true self. And that's really where I am.
Yeah. So, in order for us to really express that true self, to express our highest purpose here on earth, because I believe we each came here for a higher purpose. And I don't think that purpose is singular either. I think that we have many purposes, right? But in order to fully express that, we have to learn to identify completely with our unity, right? With the part of us that is one with God and our humanity. Like we have to really be able to identify with both. Yes, our true highest self is God, is divine, is source, and we are in these human bodies. And there are some rules to this game, right? There's a curriculum. There are some policies and procedures that we all just have to abide by, right? And some of that is the remembering process. That's a big part of it, is this remembering process. And so, but it's the forgetting is easy. That's part of the built-in program, right? It's the remembering, and then completely accepting that as true as your humanity, right? I don't know that I've fully felt that yet. Like at times, like I said, at times there have been times when I'm like, yes, I know that God is working through me. I know that, the source is moving in me and in this situation in my life. But to feel it fully all around, I don't feel I personally have achieved that yet. For more than moments, for more than moments. I definitely have had moments, and I can remember those moments, but do I necessarily feel those moments all the time? No. You know, like I don't. I don't. Um and so how do we then really express this purpose we came here for? And maybe part of it is that we are not meant to necessarily completely, I don't know. I guess that's the thing, is I do feel like we're meant to completely identify with it, but also I feel like our purpose can be expressed along the way, right? In the getting to know. Cuz I feel like this channel right now, right? We always say we are in this with you guys, right? Our classmates, like, we don't have it together. Not even a little bit. I'm speaking for myself. Uni can't speak for herself, but okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 2, okay? On most good days.
I think you deserve more credit than that, but go ahead,
Okay, 3.
sis.
But anyway, you know, but I do feel like we are still being used, right? In this process of reconnecting to spirit, and re-acknowledging that oneness, and relearning what it means to be one with the divine. And as we learn to express it, and we share it with you all, we share it with our classmates, right? If this is part of our purpose, to do this sharing, and to do it at this level of not fully knowing yet, so that others who are maybe just a little bit, you know at the beginning of that journey of figuring that out, they can see us go, we're not these big gurus who are like, yes, we know our oneness. You are one with God, you must know it. I don't know, I just got a picture of, like, if you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, of, like, Aang with, like, the guru on the mountain when he's meditating and he's trying to teach him non-attachment, and he's like, nope, don't want to do that. But you know what I mean? Like, you see these
Yeah.
these gurus up there who are just like, and I'm not knocking them. I don't want anybody to feel that way, because that's not what I'm saying. Like, I love my gurus because they've taught me so much, right? And they are the example. Like, Jesus was a guru in my mind, and Jesus has taught me so much. Um, and then you have, like, Buddha, and you have, like, all of these different avatars, essentially, who have really, like, mastered that oneness, but are still human, as examples, and that's great. But they didn't go from 0 to 100, right? There were these intermediary steps, and I do feel like we are expressing our true purpose, being in this intermediary step, and still saying, like, I know it's there. I feel it. I don't feel it all the time, but I know
Yeah.
it's there. And I mean, even right before we start, you all don't get to see this, but right before we start, one or both of us always goes, Lord, speak, spirit, speak, like, speak through us. We want to be used by the spirit, right? To allow spirit to work through us. And it's just, yes, we need to work on and completely identifying it. And I want to experience that highest purpose. And I think we're also used in these intermediary steps, right? Um, Anything you want to add to that?
I agree wholeheartedly. We've definitely talked about this behind the scenes a lot, just knowing that we've done a lot of work. Like if you look back from where you came from, you've done a
Yeah.
lot of work. You know what I mean? I look back from where I came from, I've done a lot of work. Like like if younger me and me now were to look at myself like in the like and we have like one of those back to the future moments or something, like it would be we'd be like, whoa, like I didn't know that, instead of wine, I'd be drinking tea and and drinking, taking tinctures, and you know what I mean, burning incense and have aloe plants and all kinds of plants all over my house. Or I didn't know I'd appreciate nature as much as I do, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like I had no
Mhm.
idea. I didn't know that I would, I've always been a bookworm. I've always loved reading, but I didn't know that, I'd be reading the things that I read now. And you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think that, um, I think that the fact that we have, grown, and I feel like we are definitely moving in the right direction. Um, I don't know, when you were talking at first, when you were talking, I was thinking about um and growing up in the church, I always hear Bible verses in my head sometimes, but one of them I just keep hearing, like, choose ye this day like who you will serve. And it's like, yes, like that higher self, that oneness with God, you know what I mean? And who I came here to be, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And yes, sometimes there can be like a tug of war between, my non-true self, who I was conditioned to be, versus who I
Right.
truly am. And I feel like there are some people who can there's some people who can make that change quicker than others. Like I know some people who go,
Mhm.
oh, Queen of Fools, she talks about that a lot. She's like, once I knew what I had to do, I did it, and that was it. You know what I mean? Where someone like me, I'm kind of like, okay, I did it, but did I do enough? Did I go far enough? Did I do, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and so I think that there are more people out there, maybe like us, who, yes, we've done a lot of work, or, some people to some degree, more or less, or in between, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, I do think it's important for us to share our journey. And I'm sure that when we look back, we'll see the even more how
Yeah.
in alignment it was or is.
Mhm. Yeah. So let's see where am how are we doing on time? We got a little bit of time left. Okay. So we've kind of been talking a little bit about like life's purpose, and we talked a bit about how we are both, right? We both are eternal and mortal at the same time. We are human and spirit at the same time. I would like us to kind of touch on this idea of, and then from the sense of our identity, right? We are these spiritual beings having a human experience, that we came to this earth to have experiences. And in that process, we made contracts, we made agreements to have certain experiences. And so part of remembering our identity is remembering these contracts and remembering that they are contracts, right? Because I feel like remembering that they are contracts has helped me in forgiveness big time. Is because, you know, no one can hurt you that you didn't agree to allow it to happen to you, right? And so in that, being able to say, well, I can forgive you in a spiritual sense, in a spiritual sense, I can forgive you because I acknowledge that we had this agreement and you have fulfilled your agreement. It doesn't mean that you necessarily remember that you had an agreement and that you can stop playing this role now. So you may just be gung ho in that role, and that's fine. You can do that over there. I still forgive you. Right. And so we have all of these contracts and agreements, and we agree to hurt people. You know what I mean? We agree to play roles in other people's lives too. And so that plays into kind of this idea of our oneness, right? That we came into this life together to experience things together, and we differentiated for the sake of experience. Because how can you experience physical, love of two people if there's only one? You can't. It's not possible. You need to have another person. You need to differentiate in some kind of way, right? And then how fun would it be to be hanging around somebody who's exactly like you, like that doesn't have anything, like there's no difference, there's no, so there's all this differentiation that happened. And I believe that these contracts and these agreements are really how that came about, is like spirit is trying to experience itself as you, as me, as everyone around us. And so, our higher selves have these agreements and they come into this life. And so that kind of brings me into this next topic, right? This topic about like esoterics and identity. I think a lot of people run to astrologers and numerologists and tarot and all of these things because they want to know what they are meant for, what their purpose is, who they are, and they want to learn about their personality. And we so identify with our personality, right? And that is really our temporary self, that temporary self that Uni was talking about, that mortal self. It's not really our immortal connection to source, but it is in indicative. Is that the word? It is indicative of what those agreements were, what we agreed to come down here to do, and who we agreed to be in playing this game. And so that is kind of something we're going to really get into this next week. We're going to dive much deeper into the esoterics next week. So we're just kind of introducing and skimming the topic here. But so Uni, I'm going to turn it over to you just to kind of like overview level. I don't want to go deep because we had a really good conversation about this. So I really am excited about us bringing some of these things that we talked about to our classmates. But what role do you feel like these esoterics play in a grand scheme of our identity and our oneness?
Thank you. I think that's a really good question because, like you said, so many people are turning to these sciences to help them remember. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I feel like the world that we live in has taken us kind of, I don't know, like we could always say like, oh, it's everything happens for a reason, it's all by design or whatever, but I feel like we've gotten too far off track personally. This is just my own personal opinion. I think we are way too deep in the consumerism, the capitalism, the lust, the envy, the jealousy. Like I think we've gotten way too far off track. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I think that these studies, these esoteric sciences and studies that were once hidden, and that's what esoteric means, it means to be hidden.
Right.
They were once hidden and they are now being brought to the light because it's needed. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? We need to remember. Too many of us have forgotten that we came down here to, we were born, I don't want to say came down here because maybe we came over here, maybe we came up here, like we don't even
Right.
know, you know what I mean? But
Right.
maybe we
Time and place
came,
aren't real.
we'll,
Right. Yeah.
maybe we emerged, which is, like I told you, my coworker put on the board yesterday. Here to to my point was, I kind of got off track there. I feel like the esoteric studies now are to help us remember, because we've gotten
Yes.
too far away from ourselves. We
Yeah.
are here. That was what I was going to say. We are here to make the world a better place. Like
Hmm.
right now, the world is like, for our grandchildren, if we keep going in the way that we're going, it's going to be worse. Yeah, they'll
Right.
have technology. Maybe they'll finally have flying cars or whatever. Maybe they'll be like the Jetsons, living in the air, because the actual earth is too contaminated with trash and pollution, and you know what I mean? And because the water is no good, like maybe they're going to be trying to filter it from the clouds. I don't know. But I know if we keep going the way that we're going, I truly believe that we're not going to be where it's just not going to be better. It's We're going to
Right.
leave the world worse than we came here. And so I think that that's what these esoteric studies are, is to help us remember our true selves. And I feel
Hmm.
like more of us need to remember. I think there's a number about 144,000 people. Like, if 144,000 people hold the vibration. Have you heard that before, or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. It's like the square root of 1% of the population or
Right.
something like that. That Greg Braden talks about that. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Hmm.
But I mean, that's all well and good. 144,000 is cool, but I don't know. Like, maybe that's not enough anymore. Maybe we need more people to hold the vibration. All I know is that I think that these studies are really to help us to remember who we truly are, and we got to stop using it to try to find love and see who's dating who, and if
Right.
this man is really our man, and if this woman is really our woman, and if they were meant to be, and if we're going to win $1 million. Listen, I want the million, $2 million. Don't get me wrong. But I think that the esoteric studies are really here to help us remember who we truly are. And that's what we're really supposed to use it for. It's supposed to
Right.
help us remember those contracts that we made, so that we can get to doing the work of the Most High, and not down here toiling and just eating and using, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean, and
Right.
consuming, rather. We're supposed to be creating. We're supposed to
Right.
be creating more than we're consuming, but right now we're all consuming more than we're creating.
Right.
And when you get
Right.
into the esoterics, it teaches you how to create, which you're here to create, or it'll help point you in the right direction at the very least.
Hmm. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, we got a little bit more time here. So I'm going to start wrapping it up. But I just, everything you say just really resonates because I feel like I really recognized or was able to like really put it in perspective with astrology because that's my thing. I When I started to study astrology and I really understood how much of my personality I could tell from just looking at a birth chart. Personality before I ever looked at a birth chart. You know what I mean? Like before I knew what any of that meant or anything. And I'm like, whoa, to have somebody sit there and read you and say, oh, you're this way, that way, that. And you go, how do you know that? Well, it's in the stars, literally. It's in the cosmos. It's written in. That made me understand my oneness, on a deeper level because it's like, wow, the stars really did align to make my birth possible. Like it, I am a part of this. It made me feel a part of it. You know what I mean? And so as I got deeper and I learned about this idea of contracts and agreements to learn certain things and experience things on earth, it just made it so much clearer to have these esoterics to kind of look at. And there's different ones and I use all of them, you know what I mean? And I don't use them with like, oh, well, this is here and that's here. That means you're going to do this. No, that's not exactly it. It's not like that either. But, you know, this idea that it can remind us of who we truly are and what we really came here to do, what we came here to express. Um, yeah, I'm so excited that we chose this as next week's topic. So it's going to be really great to go deeper. And I really hope that we can bring everyone to a more spiritual understanding of these esoterics. You know, they're for more than just predicting whether or not you're going to be rich or win the lottery or fall in love with a certain person or yeah, that's all so inconsequential. And the big, I've used it to do deep psychological work, like like deep psychological work. Oh, this happened. I was abused. Fine, you can see the abuse in my chart. It's there, right? How do I heal from that? Well, you got to look to the opposite side of that and see. You know what I mean? Or it's so deeper, so much deeper. You guys, you just don't classmates. We're going to share some of these things with you that we've learned and we hope that you are in the comments. I haven't done a very good job of like inviting you to answer questions this time around, but you know, let us know what you think of everything that we've been talking about today. I'm going to just say, it's been a really great conversation. I'm excited to continue it next week. Um yeah, I think that's really it. I do anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I want to thank you all for joining us. And I hope you just, are inspired to take the time to, sit with yourself and truly be with yourself.
Mhm.
There's just, as I was driving home earlier today from the store, I was just like, wow, like I really like being with myself, and then I
Mm.
had to sit and think about like who is that? Like who am I that I like to sit with and be with? When I'm in my own
Right.
space, uninterrupted. What am I doing? Who am I being? What am I expressing? And so I just urge everyone to explore yourself and make sure that you're being someone that you want to be with, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Take some time, sit in the stillness, feel into that oneness because the mind is not going to get there. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate you all. May you be guided and supported and lovingly reminded of who you really are. And that's it for today. Peace.
Peace.